We got a big battle in front of us, baby. And it's just started. So let's get funky like a monkey. For 16 years, the American dream has done it with you. Don't fail me now. Lord, don't fail me now.
All right, the Wrestlebros are back, and Lou, in full fighting form.
Hell yeah, brother.
Ready to go.
It's been a minute, man. It's time to rock and roll.
Well, we were pushing out a lot of videos during WrestleMania.
Yeah, and I got to admit, man, you know, we've continued to rising the stakes. I mean, you know, we were right at about 250-ish, give or take, around WrestleMania. Now we're probably about 2 or 3 heads shy of 300. So again, thank you to all the people who are listening, liking, subscribing. We really appreciate it, because trust me, Vic and I have a great time doing these videos. We do them for you. So again, you know, keep watching, you know, and then, as I say all the time, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your dog. We're here every week, and you know, we're here to entertain you guys. So hope we're able to put a smile on your face here for the next little while.
All right, let's talk a little Blood and Guts. Coming up this Wednesday.
Yes, sir.
Pinnacle versus the Inner Circle. And it feels like it's coming quickly, or like it happened really quickly. But if you look at the actual story, it's been a long time, because the story begins when, you know, with Jericho and MJF. So this is I don't know when I don't even know when that started. I'd say more than 6 months ago.
Yeah, I guess so. You know, to me, I just wish that this match would be on pay-per-view. You know, they have a pay-per-view show at the end of the month. I don't think it should be on free TV. This is easily the main event of their, you know, was it Double or Nothing pay-per-views coming up at the end of this month?
It could be the main event to any pay-per-view, really.
I'm saying, but knowing that that's the one that's closest on the calendar for them, and it would only be probably, I don't know, 3.5 weeks out from when they're actually going to do it. I'd have been like,
yeah, I'm big on putting it on pay-per-view and leaving the best matches for pay-per-view, but I would love to pick their brain and find out what's the thought process here. Or is there something? Do they have other plans that are going to lead to the pay-per-view? Because when they were originally going to do Blood and Guts the first time, literally right before COVID, like
it's going to be on free. Yeah, it was going to be right. It was going to be on free TV as well.
So clearly the plan has always been to put it on free TV. So I would love to get, you know, their mindset behind that. But I don't know.
I'm a little. See, to me, when I look at this story, yeah, you could tell the story. You know, the story of Jericho and MJF over 6 months. And again, I was not a big fan of the work that they did. You know, it felt like MJF was doing really, really well for himself, and then he got hooked up with Jericho, and I just felt that it was not MJF's best work, and it had nothing to do with him. It just happens to be that, you know, him paired with Jericho was just like, it didn't do it for me.
Well, I mean, you're looking at Chapter 1, right? So
correct.
Maybe that didn't do it for you.
I'm just saying that piece of the equation didn't do it for me. When MJF, you know, did the swerve and basically introduced his crew, which is, you know, Wardlow, Spears, FTR, and obviously Tully Blanchard. They did a number on the Inner Circle, basically turning all the members of the Inner Circle babyface. Okay, perfect, no problem. The issue that I had with this is that you'd figure that if you're going to do what the Inner Circle ended up doing to the Pinnacle, meaning beating them up and Chris Jericho literally putting MJF's head in the toilet, that's usually something that the baby faces do to the heels in the end. When we're done with that particular chapter, and then it's either we're going to reset, separate, whatever they're going to do. That's usually the end result or something similar to that. They do that when the inner circle get their receipt, and then it's just this back and forth stuff where you have the talent on both sides of the ledger to be able to do this in a much slower way, and then build to this blood and guts match, which again I'm advocating this shouldn't be on free television. One is because blood and guts war games, the name of the match already tells you what you're going to be expecting. It's going to be bloody, it's going to be brutal, because AEW doesn't have a problem with their wrestlers, bleeding out. This is not the WWE. In terms of WWE has war games matches and nobody gets cut. That's just, it's stupid. It's a cage match. It's brutal. It's supposed, the visual's supposed to be there. We're going to get that visual. However, being that it's on free TV, it might be a matter of like, okay, again, how squeamish is the TNT network in terms of letting them go all out in terms of dialing it up as high as they want to. Pay-per-view, not a problem. You can dial it up as much as you want because of the fact that the people who are watching the show are people who paid money to see the show and want to see whatever it is that you're presenting. Good, bad, indifferent, it doesn't matter. They want to see it. This is a match and an attraction. This is because really the match in and of itself doesn't really seem that important to me right now, because it feels almost like they booked it to they almost felt like they finished the fight and now they're trying to get to this match. But this is an attraction. The idea of war games, they can't call it war games, but it is what it is. Blood and Guts is war games. The attraction of that match is enough of a hook that is your main event for pay-per-view. To get like the Stadium Stampede gimmick, right? As stupid as I thought that match was, but the idea of the match, the attraction of said match, is enough to entice people to want to depart with $50 of their money and watch it on pay-per-view. This match is exactly that. To give it away on free TV is a no-no, especially when you got 10 guys who, as talented as they are, you can be able to tell stories over the next 3 or 4 TVs that will get you to that pay-per-view. And then it'll be ratcheted up to the point where the people who are interested in watching it will pay money, and then AEW can do just about anything they want on pay-per-view because the restrictions are not there as they would be on television. Because there are certain things that I'm sure that if TNT says go ahead, give them a tentative green light, at the end of the night they might be like, and it won't be AEW creatively. It might be their television partners might be like, damn, you know what? Maybe that's a bit much. Pay-per-view, you're not going to have that problem.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they. I mean, AEW doesn't do like whatever they do on television, they do on pay-per-view. It's very similar. I don't think there's a difference in the rules.
I got you.
You can do more on pay-per-view, but they don't want to do more than what they've already done. They're willing to bleed a lot. They're willing to use a lot of weapons, use a lot of violence, but they're not going to do nothing. I mean, there's really nothing else you can do except show boobs or something like that. So just, like sexual stuff, it's the things that they're not. That's the line they probably won't cross. But pretty much, the violence stuff, they do that on TNT all the time. So I don't think there is a line that they can go, because they wouldn't go too far anyway on pay-per-view. Based on what I've seen and throughout their history, they've had stuff on television that is as violent as anything that they've done on pay-per-view.
Well, listen, the spots that they do, it's a difference between what I think is they do dangerous looking spots or they have accidental bleeding. And I think that's just the wrestlers, really just being too amped up. And
no, they get real. They they cut themselves, they jig themselves, they get color, you know.
I get it, but
plan it.
it's not something that they've it's something that the majority of the times when those things do happen, they don't seem to be like they're jigging themselves. It almost seems like it was an accident. Versus this match is completely designed with that thought in mind. It's completely designed that way. So again, this is a match that again I would love to. If I would have been in AEW's ear, I would have been telling them this is pay-per-view. Do not put this on free TV because again, if a lot of the matches that are going to be shown on AEW Dynamite in the next 2 weeks are going to be matches that you could easily put on pay-per-view. Like they're basically it's almost like they're giving away their pay-per-view on free TV. And then when we get to the end of May, and I believe it's Double or Nothing, right? That's the show. I want to make sure that I'm getting my shows right, but whatever their pay-per-view title is for the end of this month on Memorial Day weekend.
Double or Nothing is May 30th.
What attraction really is there? And that's the point that I'm trying to make is that this was the attraction match that main events that anchors that pay-per-view show.
Unless there's something we don't know about.
Oh,
I mean, I don't. The only reason I get why companies now they put big stuff on television and big matches that should be on pay-per-view is just TV is really, really important, and most of your money comes from your television. So it is a huge deal.
But
I just think if a match is going to be special or potentially be special, you don't know until it happens, right? But for some people,
but the spectacle of it, where obviously we don't know until it happens, but
yeah,
it has the attraction, the attraction of the
really
cage.
Special, and it's hard to be special. We got to take 2 commercial breaks during the match. It's gonna ruin, it's not gonna ruin it, but it's just not as good.
No. I listen. Will it ruin the match? The actual. I would go with saying yes, it would. Only because of the fact that when there could be moments when you get into it and then you don't want to hear Excalibur or Jim Ross say, "Oh, we're going into picture on a commercial break." That just kills all the buzz. Unless AEW just says, "Screw it, we're gonna go the last 30 minutes of the show, no commercials, and we're just gonna show you this match." Fine.
And that's something they rarely do too. So that's
a route they can take, and I think that would be the right thing to do. In all honesty,
if they can, because I've wanted them to do that many times, and I don't remember them doing that often. I wish they would, but I wish all companies would use up all your breaks. If you have a special match coming up and it's on television, try to give them 20 straight minutes at the end. 15 straight minutes at the end, 7, something, 15.
I'll tell you, it's the thing about that is that obviously is controlled by the network. The network has certain breaks and all that jazz, and that's really all dependent on advertising and the advertising rates because even within a show, let's say a show like NXT or AEW, the break that leads into the show, the 7:58, 7:59 commercial break, that has a different price point than the commercial that airs at 9:30. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the reason why they have those breaks there. But again, I think that this match, I'm just always going to like beating the dead horse here. I'm expecting this match to be very physical. I'm expecting the match I'm actually expecting this match to be good. I think that the heels need to go over. The baby faces cannot go over in this match, meaning the Inner Circle can't win. The heels have to win. Because if the heels lose, then I'm like, all right, then the pinnacle is just, where do you go? The Inner Circle has to take the loss. And then, because realistically, this is a moment where MJF and his guys have got to win, and the Inner Circle have to regroup. And then they have to kind of figure out, like, okay, where do we go from here? Blah, blah, blah. But, this is something where I wish that they would have had more time between the factions fighting. You could say that this story's been going on for 6 months with MJF and Jericho and all that. But this story with the 10 guys And the two factions going on, it's only been going on for 6 weeks. And now this seems like a big blow off match. So I'm expecting it to be good. Again, I think the pay-per-view is the way to go, and I think that maybe a little more time in the oven to cook this would have been what the doctor ordered. But I don't write the show, so I gotta be able to give them some flexibility. But it's certainly not my preference to have this on free television.
All right. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the heels winning, but the baby faces have to win at the end. When is the end? I don't know. It could be a year from now. It could be next year. They can do it again. I don't know. But
well, here's the thing about it, and I asked this question sincerely. Would it be time? And I asked this because I don't know whether or not it may be time for the Inner Circle to have a crisis. Not saying they break up, but they go into crisis mode. Again, when the Inner Circle first debuted on the first episode of Dynamite back in October of 2019, they were presented as the top heel group. But when you look at them, when you look at all 5 of these guys together, they don't really fit that well. Jericho is a big, obviously Jericho is the big star. Jake Hager should have been a badass, and unfortunately, the way he's been booked on AEW, it's been anything but.
It's not the booking. It's him.
But what I'm saying,
booked
right?
Like a badass. He's booked like a complete badass.
But he just.
I don't think he's ever lost.
Well, yes, he has. But there's something between the ears.
A singles match?
Yes, he lost to Moxley.
Oh, well, to the champ.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But he lost to him. He lost to Wardlow. But what I'm saying is that then when you look at Sammy Guevara was a guy that was doing really well with Jericho and as kind of like his sidekick. And then you had Santana and Ortiz when they were the badasses, and then Ortiz wanted to be a comedian. He had like a 6 months lapse of where he wanted to be a comedian and just was a complete goof. Now he and Santana are much more serious, and I'm like, okay, I like this version of Santana and Ortiz. Guevara, I'm not sure if I like him as a baby face. I liked him more as the swarmy heel, as the guy who you want to slap. Jericho being obviously the head of that group, and Hager being the muscle. But when I take a look at the Pinnacle, and you just look at them visually, these guys look like a group of guys that would hang out together and look like main event heels. Whether or not it works out at the end, because MJF, we know about MJF. He's fantastic. FTR, they're great. Wardlow is green, but he's got a hell of a lot of potential. And Sean Spears is a guy that I've advocated many times before that I want him to get a really good chance, because in all honesty, he looks great and he's a very, very talented wrestler, but I don't think that he's ever gotten a really, really good shake to where we can let him go out there and let the audience decide whether or not we like him or not. It's always been fits and starts in the WWE, AEW. There's never been a real commitment to him as a wrestling persona to actually be on TV every week and give him a chance to get over one way or the other. And then Tully, Tully's Tully. When he's allowed to speak and he's allowed to cut promos, he does a really good job. But again, it's always been very minimal. So again, there's a lot of opportunity with that group, and I like them visually. They look great. And there's a part of me that thinks that the Pinnacle should be the key focus group as a faction, and the Inner Circle has to go into a little bit of a crisis mode, ultimately for them to come back as a stronger unit and get their revenge, but not right away. Where you can tell other stories within the Inner Circle, whether it's them bickering or fighting with each other, or them having to separate to then come back, whatever. But I want to be able to give the Pinnacle an opportunity to really get themselves over as the super strong heel faction in AEW, because visually they just look amazing.
All right, some interesting developments happening at AAA. One is Andrade. There was a vignette for Andrade And he basically did I don't know if you got to see this vignette, but it's the same,
No, I didn't.
almost the same as the Cody Rhodes New Japan vignette. It's like Andrade there, nice suit, nice watch, cigar, drink, and cutting his promo. But in this promo,
He didn't have the recognizable blonde next to him, right?
no.
Oh, okay.
But in this promo, he kind of calls out Kenny Omega and challenges him to a match.
Yeah, because he wants the AAA title. Omega has it.
And look, that's how quickly can we do something cool with Andrade? I guess really, really, really quickly, because this is, to me, pretty cool. You know, I think this will be a really, really fun match that I'm gonna go seek out. I mean, usually I watch Triple Mania. It's the only AAA show that I watch. I try to find it. Apparently, it's not going to be easy this year because there is some sort of lawsuit going on, and AAA doesn't even air in America at all.
And that's, because I remember they used to air on Galavisión, and for many years, on the Televisa channel, and
yeah, there's something going on. There's some sort of lawsuit going on, and AAA right now, because of the lawsuit, they're not really allowed, I guess you can say, on American television.
Yeah, I don't know one way.
I mean, I'll go look for it. If they tell me a website, it can be, if they have a website, that's Mexican, I can watch on a Mexican channel on a website, then that'll be cool as long as I can find it, because I'd like to see it.
Yeah,
I'm sure I'll find it, but I'd like to know ahead of time.
Of course. I mean, listen, part of me, listen, I got nothing but good things to say about Andrade. And again, when you look at Andrade, 6'2", 220 pounds, he looks like a Greek god. He looks like a male model. The guy spent the last 5 or 6 years in the WWE. Whatever good or not good came out of it, he, in the eyes of the Mexican wrestling fans in AAA and Federación or CMLL or whatever other company that he chooses to work for in Mexico, he's going to be either the biggest star or near the top in whatever food chain they have there. With that said, I don't necessarily think that he should be working with Omega right away. Here's why. Omega's storyline that he's having right now is he's been the AAA Mega Champion for I don't know how long. He won the AEW title 6 months ago. He just recently won the Unified Impact TNA World title. So basically, he's doing the Thanos gimmick. You have Andrade, who's just recently left WWE. He's been off WWE TV now for the last several months, but he just recently got released by WWE. He's going to Mexico and he wants to challenge Omega for the AAA Mega title. Here's the deal. Omega's storyline right now actually is going to dictate that he's going to win all of his matches, at least for the foreseeable future. A guy like Andrade, I don't necessarily think that I would want to have Andrade challenging Omega right this second, because it seems like as great of a match as it will be, or as entertaining of a match that it can be, the outcome is not in question.
Yeah, but
here's the thing.
I don't think it matters.
I do, because the thing about Andrade is that he can stay in AAA. He can work with all of the AAA stars. And again, I am not excuse me, I'm not as well versed with AAA as I was 20 or 30 years ago when I used to watch it every week on TV, so I knew who the top stars were. I don't know who they are today. But if Andrade shows up and he works with all the top guys in AAA and is able to give them, a little bit of a lift, meaning that he brings his notoriety from the WWE, he brings it to Mexico, and then is able to help these guys become big stars. And let's say 6 months or a year from now, when, let's say, the Omega storyline starts to wind down and it's time for Omega to hand the belts back, then he can work with Andrade, because at that point then the outcome is a little more doubtful, and you can see them working a series of matches, or if Andrade takes the belt off of him. So basically Omega says bye-bye to Mexico for, that little while, and Andrade gets to be crowned the champion. To do it right now is like, yeah, on paper, it's a fun match. On paper, it's a big deal. But since the outcome is not in question, because based on the storyline that Omega's currently on, it dictates that he has to win. No matter how, whether he cheats or whatever, he has to win. And this is where it's a little bit where I'm like, I don't know if I'm Andrade, if I'd want to be doing jobs this soon. If you're going to be in Mexico, you want to win a lot. You want to be able to get over winning matches, not just being the guy that the crowd loves, because the crowd loves him because they know who he is. He's La Sombra. He's a second, third generation, luchador. The fans in Mexico know who he is. So, and then as well, you look at the American fans who got to see him for the last 5 or 6 years in the WWE, and now you got yourself, a nice cross-pollination of fans that can get behind Andrade, but Andrade needs to get more steam behind him, and I think it's probably best to have him do it by being there. Presumably he should probably be a babyface, only because if that's the projection, to have him, essentially take the belt off of Omega eventually, then you project him as a babyface, and you have him beat everybody in Mexico, and then when it's time for him and Omega to fight, then the outcome can be a little more doubtful, which makes the match that much more intriguing when you watch
it. Yeah, I get it. And under normal circumstances, I would say yes, absolutely. Let's take our time with Andrade, and let's not rush to this big. They're probably the biggest money match they can make, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah,
for them.
Oh, I'm sure. I say this, and again, and I say that I'm agreeing with you, not knowing who the big stars are in Mexico, because I'm presuming that Roosh and Dragon Lee and all these other guys are wrestling in the U.S. full time. So
even if they get all those guys back, this is a huge match that people will want to see. Like, wrestling fans will hear about this and go, okay, now I got to watch Triple Mania. They probably had no interest of watching Triple Mania before, and they absolutely are going to watch it. But that's not the point. The main thing is Andrade is not exclusive to anybody. He has not signed an exclusive deal with AAA. He might be working every damn promotion in Mexico, and he might show up at New Japan, and he might show up at some of these. He is not exclusive to anyone. So AAA might only have him for 10 dates. And he might decide he's gonna stick it out with the new company if they they're willing to pay well or whatever. Or apparently they pay really well, as if they stick around.
Well, I mean, listen, it's this is the same thing. I mean, I know Federación. I know that they're the new league in Mexico. I mean, listen, I don't know what their situation is, so I don't want to say one way or the other. And believe it or not, AAA doesn't really have this tremendous history. AAA as a promotion, I believe, got started in 1988. So that's only what, 35 years. It's not a long time. Really, if you want to talk about who is the standard bearer, or not standard bearer, the flagship company would be CMLL.
Yeah, but CMLL
CMLL is aging out. CMLL is essentially aging out because, they had all the shows in Arena Mexico, but their audience, like they have not really come, they've not moved on with the times as well. Because when AAA first started, AAA was basically all the young cats that were in CMLL or EMLL at the time, Empresa Mundial de Lucha Libre, not Consejo Mundial de Lucha Libre like it is today. But when those guys were not really being pushed well, because you had the established stars of the time back in the late 80s, early 90s that were getting all the push because of, the fact that they were the ones moving the tickets. All of those guys in one fell swoop all went and created AAA. And by, let's say, 1992, 1993, 94, AAA was just spanking. They were just spanking everybody around in Mexico, and they were coming into Los Angeles and in Texas, and they were making they were just making a mint. But that lasted for about maybe 10 years. And then little by little, it started fading away because again, all the big stars that AAA produced all came to the United States. They all ended up in ECW, WCW, WWE, you know, so on and so forth. Since then, I'm not sure, because I know that they've had stars, because they have had stars, but whether or not they've made it to the level, you know, that the guys are today. And again, for Andrade's situation, if Andrade's, you know, he's non-exclusive, listen, that's totally cool. That's totally cool. But I think that ultimately, if they're going to have, they meaning AAA is going to have some kind of an agreement with Andrade to say, listen, we'll let you work wherever you want, because at this point, they probably don't have the means by which to pay him, you know, a salary to keep him exclusively. I'm sure they don't have that. Federación might be able to pay him a very hefty salary, but at the same time, they're the new kids on the block. And for what can happen, again, it's not a matter, because I don't really know anything about Federación, but if they got the money to pay him, that's all great and good. The thing is, if the trinket is the AAA, you know, mega championship, and it's being represented by Kenny Omega, and knowing that the storyline that's currently being presented, there's a lot more value to Andrade to stay with AAA, even if it's in a non-exclusive situation where he can bounce around. But at some point when they say, okay, a year from now, and I'm just making dates up, let's just say a year from now, Omega's going to drop the title. We want him to drop the title to you. And you work your way and you tell that story until you get to that point. Hopefully by then, that'll build enough business for AAA to where they can get Andrade in some kind of semi-exclusive situation. Because if he's the champion, you're not going to want him wrestling for the rival promotions in the same country. If he wants to wrestle outside of Mexico and he wants to wrestle in Japan or the United States, fantastic. But that means he's not going to be wrestling for Federación. He's not wrestling for CMLL. He's not going to do it. I certainly, you know, and again, because that's, if you're the AAA champion, then you're not going to be wrestling for the other guys. At least I don't think you would. But that's, you know, all of those things are just things to consider for if you're Andrade, is that there is a huge payoff at the end if Omega continues to, you know, on this trajectory that he's on. Then when it's time for Omega to lose the titles, that's a big spot for Andrade.
Yeah, I don't see AAA going that route unless Andrade commits to them, which means he would lose out on a lot of money. Also, AAA would lose a lot of money if they did not strike while the iron was hot. Andrade right now, there's a buzz. People want to see where he's gonna go, what he's gonna do. You know, in wrestling, when a guy leaves one company and is about to show up somewhere else,
yeah, there's a lot of buzz around it.
That increases business, no matter how small the promotion. Just look at Impact, Slammiversary. It did great business, and they didn't even have, like, they weren't promoting a match like Kenny against Andrade.
Of course,
promoting that Eric Young might show up.
But I guess the difference is my argument in that situation is that, you know, if you're looking to get the buzz for that one big show, and let's say that for AAA it's Triple Mania, and I'm not sure, you know, when it's going to happen. It looks like Triple Mania, if all things go well, it's sometime this summer. Like, we don't know when, but it'll be sometime this summer. That'll be big business for them. The situation again is, if they're looking to just get one big gate, and betting that on that one big gate, they're going to be able to get a big enough attraction to where people will then start eyeballing and searching out AAA and wanting to search out those talents. I don't know if that strategy long-term is the best thing to do. Obviously, you want to strike while the iron's hot. I get all of those things. It's more a matter that with a guy like Andrade, he can really be used as a means to help get over a lot of the talent in AAA, as a means, instead of having him work what can be viewed as a big money match with Kenny Omega, to the audience, let's say the non-WWE watching audience. that would view this as a huge money match, and you get that one match, Andrade will more than likely lose, no matter what the circumstances are, how it happens. Again, if done right, then you have room for a rematch. But it almost feels like if you're going to do something like that, you think that Omega would drop the title, and based on the storyline that Kenny's currently on, he's not losing any matches.
We are assuming, right? Because things happen fast in wrestling. Triple Mania 2020 was in December. So in theory, Triple Mania could be happening in November, December.
Yeah, but I think, but generally Triple Mania happens in the summer. It's just a matter that, last year they couldn't because they couldn't get into the buildings. That's the reason why they couldn't find a place to hold the event.
Well, the last 2 years has been in December. December 1st, 2019. Okay, August. Wait, what? Oh, what the hell did they do? Like a weird back to back?
I'm just saying Triple Mania usually would happen
2 in 1 year. That was weird. Yeah, they've done it in August 3 years ago.
That's what I'm saying. Like it generally, because I remember that Triple Mania used to come on late spring. Like we're talking, let's say WrestleMania's in April. The earliest I think Triple Mania ever happened was either May or June. The latest that I can remember usually was September. But the one thing about Triple Mania is that they've never had like an established dates. Like, then the WWE WrestleMania is either March or April.
All right.
SummerSlam's in August, blah, blah, blah. Like, that. But for AAA.
Yeah, so we don't know a date, but anything can happen. If it's soon, then yes, Kenny's probably going to win, but I don't think that matters. Being able to be part of a huge match like this that's going to do huge business for AAA, more business than they probably expected, because
Andrade it's going to be big business for them. Absolutely.
Yeah, Andrade wasn't available, probably when they started playing the show. All of a sudden you got Andrade, you're like, oh snap. Like, and not only Andrade, because there's plenty of Mexican stars that are out there. I'm pretty sure, I don't know what the free agent, I don't know who signed to who, or I know these guys left Ring of Honor, Roosh, right? And CMLL is not working with Ring of Honor anymore.
Well, see, the thing is for me is that I always found it a little weird that CMLL was working with Ring of Honor, only because and again, I keep prefacing this by saying that I don't know the current Mexican wrestling product. But again, when I'm looking at the traditional style of CMLL against Ring of Honor, even though Ring of Honor does, they try to be very wrestling based. I can see the relationship with Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling, because those two products seem to be similar enough that guys can go back and forth, and they fit inside both worlds. When I look at CMLL, I'm like, I don't see how the products mesh that well together. Part of me would think that AAA would have probably been a better fit, only because AAA being with the younger promotion, and the in-ring product seems to be a little more fitting in terms of the excitement portion that they try to do with their talents, where CMLL seems to be a little more traditional, and they're still in Arena Mexico, and although they're trying to break out of it, but they kind of stay inside a particular mold, whereas it didn't seem like on paper seems like the best relationship. Although the talents, I know that Rouge and Dragon Lee.
Yeah, I'm about to say, well, Rouge is a better fit in Ring of Honor than anybody in AAA. The guys that are over in AAA work like, it's either like all the clowns that are kind of very.
Well, I mean, Psycho Clown, I think is the last man standing in this trio group, because I think the other two, I think, already had their masks taken off.
Damn, man, damn those damn masks.
but
yeah, a lot of AAA guys are either really, really small and do a lot of high flying, like ridiculous stuff, or there's a big personality guys that are funny or they're ultra violent, character based. I don't see the work rate matching up that well. And maybe CMLL doesn't have enough guys that match the work rate either, but they had enough to make Ring of Honor happy. They had the 4 or 5 guys, and they were like, okay, send us these guys here, and we'll be happy.
I mean, and
it worked out for a while.
And the thing is, when I take a look at somebody like Rouge and Dragon Lee particularly, because Dragon Lee is a guy that when I look at him, because he looks like Ultimo Dragon with a better physique. The gimmick is a lot like Ultimo Dragon. He's just got an outstanding physique. That guy. He works really hard to look the way he does. And when I've seen him work in Mexico, I've seen him work in Japan, and I'm like, this gimmick works. I'm surprised that WWE didn't pick him up sooner. Now with AEW around, he could be somebody. Again, in Impact Wrestling, I think the Dragon Lee would do very well, but I don't think that the talent roster is deep enough at the current moment to be able to really present him, enough challenges. But I would say definitely WWE or AEW, either or would be a great landing place. Rouge looks amazing and he does good work, but he's still got some rough edges to him. He's still got a few rough edges that need to be worked out, and that's just for reps and experience. The fact that he doesn't have the mask, sometimes it could be a matter of when he's selling or whatever with the facials, that needs to improve. Sometimes when you wear the mask, that could cover some things up a little bit. You have to do it with your body. You can't necessarily do it with your face. But but with Rouge, I see a lot of good things for him. He still needs a little more seasoning. But Dragon Lee definitely is a guy who's ready to be seen by a much larger audience.
All right. Let's stick with AAA. You also had Deonna Purrazzo challenge Faby Apache for the Reina de.
Wow, Faby's still wrestling.
Yeah, and she's still good.
Wow,
every time I see her, I'm like, damn.
Wow, Faby Apache is still wrestling, huh?
Yeah.
I remember her. My God, I remember when I first started watching AAA. This is 1993, and I remember she was wrestling then. She was, gosh, she was probably like 18 at the time. So she's got to be itching 50 at this point.
No, she's only 40.
Really, that's it.
Yeah, like you said, you saw her when she was 18. So.
Well, 1993 to now. That's 30 years. So that means she must. God, there's no way. There's no way she's 40. She's got to be older than that. But
unless they're lying.
I have a feeling that they are, because if Apache was wrestling,
she could have been 15 when you saw her.
Well, even then the math still doesn't add up. But it would be, she would still.
I can do it.
But anyway, that's beyond the point. But Deonna Purrazzo versus.
I'm curious. I'm gonna find the first match.
Versus Faby Apache, huh?
I'm gonna find the first match. That's gonna be a good match.
And the thing is with Faby Apache,
the first match was in 1998.
Her first match was in 98?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then I got her completely mixed up then. Okay, my apologies. But I remember her because she was really attractive when she was younger. I don't know how she looks like today, but when she was, when she first started wrestling, I was like, yeah, she's cute.
So she started at 17, so she was a baby. Oh my God.
Because I know that it was her sister, I believe her father, and I know there was another woman. I don't think it was her mother, maybe her aunt or something like that. And they were all wrestlers. And I know that she was married to a wrestler as well. I think Billy Boy or something like that, I think was his wrestling name. I don't know if they're married anymore, but I know that she took some time off, because I know she had a baby and she was gone for about a year or two and then came back. And I remember a series of matches that she had with a very young Taya Valkyrie. This is when Taya looked a lot different than she does today.
Yep.
A lot different. but Fabio is always been very good, and and I got nothing but good things to say about Deonna Purrazzo's in ring work. So I'm sure that that's going to be a very good match between the two.
Triple Mania is shaping up to be something nice so far. That's two good
Now,
matches.
now
They always have like the fucking like the ridiculous multi-person, like just everything going crazy. It's funny. You'll get to see some very cool stuff with at Triple Mania, but you'll also see some horrible stuff that you're gonna be blown away that that's made it on the show.
Well, I mean, listen.
But it's okay. It's fun at least.
I mean, listen. At the end of the day, for in Mexican wrestling, the staple of Mexican wrestling has always been the trios, the 6-man tag matches. The style to American wrestling fans, the style is not that impressive because it's all high flying stuff and it doesn't look like anything hurts. It just looks like acrobatics. No matter how small or how big you are, everybody does it. Now, over the years, this style has become more of a hybrid because the styles have been a little more Americanized in terms of, the TLC matches, more violence, the weapons, all that other stuff. That's different in today's environment. And I think as well, when they've had the influx of a lot of the European and American wrestlers that are physically much larger than the native Mexican wrestlers, it's helped change their style a little bit. Because there was a time when, you would see guys, American wrestlers were 6'6" and 250 pounds, doing the same, wrestling the same style. And I'm like, I get it, that's the cultural thing. But when you're 6'6" and 260 pounds, you should not be wrestling like that. And your opponent should be smart enough to know that you shouldn't be wrestling like that either, because it just doesn't work.
All right. How about we talk about Eva Marie?
Eva Marie.
They just played like a coming soon vignette for Eva Marie.
Coming attractions to Monday Night Raw.
Yeah. So look, I'm actually a big Eva Marie fan. I think she was given she was put in a really tough situation where, unlike the rest of the girls, she was completely rushed. There was no reason to rush her, but they rushed her up the main roster. Then they put her in a bunch of weird situations. They knew that her wrestling wasn't great, but then her character, and she got over, so they're like, damn it, now we need her to wrestle. And then they send her to Brian Kendrick, right?
Yes.
And he helped her, and she did get a lot better pretty quickly, but she was pretty much given a couple of weeks to get better. And that's never the right way to do it. Now, we know she's been signed for a while. We started hearing rumors a while ago about
this dates back to last summer, so we're it's almost a year at this point.
So let's hope that for the entire time that she has been signed, this has all been a master plan, and this time they took their time. They let her get her work in. She's a good athlete. She's a really, really good athlete. She stays in
she stays in tip-top shape. No, she really does.
She's completely shredded. So she's gonna grab the attention of the fans really, really quick. All she has to do is hang in there. The workers are better now than they were when she first started. So now all of a sudden, working with Charlotte and Sasha and Bailey and Natty and whoever, she'll be able to get through these matches a lot easier than the last time around. And I think she will be better because there's no way that she has not been preparing for a full year. I just know that she has. I'm expecting a much better Eva Marie. It's gonna take some time because it's different, right? Doing it live and doing it in practice is totally different.
Yes.
But I do think that once she gets her reps in, like a lot of the AEW girls, let the weeks pass, months pass, all of a sudden you start seeing small improvements. I just hope they don't give up on her because she makes a few mistakes in the ring. Give her the opportunities and wait for her to get better. She'll get better. If a year passes and she had zero improvement in the ring, okay, it's not gonna work. But I don't think that's gonna be the case.
Well, my take on this is that there's, the difference obviously between Eva Marie and the AEW girls, with all due respect, is that for the however much or little exposure Eva Marie has had on wrestling TV, she is a bigger star than any of those girls are currently. That's no shade on the AEW girls. It just is what it is. Now, with Eva Marie at age 36, you look at it and say, oh, 36 is a young woman. And I'm like, yes and no, right? For wrestling. And it's because at this
for
stage,
wrestling, it's young, but it's a double standard.
well, it's a double standard because, again,
that's going away.
When Eva, well, here's the thing. When Eva Marie first started in 2012, 2013, you're right. She didn't know her elbow from her asshole in terms of getting in the ring and doing anything inside the wrestling ring. She knew nothing. She was just a strikingly beautiful woman who had a lot of personality and got over with the WWE audience. So when she got over on Total Divas and became, the villain of the show, for lack of a better term, WWE saw, hey, we got a star here. But unfortunately, the one thing that we're supposed to do is get in the ring and wrestle is the one thing that she can't do. Not her fault. It's just a matter that she wasn't a trained professional wrestler. After she was released from the WWE, 2013, 2014, when she was released from the WWE, she went on to do fitness stuff. She's done reality TV. She's done acting. She's done all these different things, but nothing to do with professional wrestling, working indie shows, working for other promotions, doing anything of any significance within professional wrestling. She gets signed by the WWE, whether it's July or August of 2020, she gets signed with them. And let's just say, presumably for the last 8 or 9 months, she's been in the Performance Center in Orlando working every day and getting better. Under those circumstances, do I think that she would be much better prepared? Absolutely. There's no way that she wouldn't be. And I think that she has motivation because, in all honesty, I think that Eva Marie, and she said it herself in interviews, that she has unfinished business in the WWE. Like she wants to do it right. She wants to do it the right way. And I commend her for that. I really do. I'm hoping that it works out for her because, again, she's the type of person that if she's able to recapture the heat that she got, the personality, and I think that she's a natural heel. I don't see her as a baby face. I see her as a natural heel. I think that she would actually do very well. And again, I do agree with you. In today's WWE, the women wrestlers are far better as a collective than they were back 10 years ago when she was last there. And again, no shade on the women that were there 10 years ago, but most of them were models and most of them were inexperienced wrestlers. And with time, they all got better. But again, I'm taking the snapshot of when Eva Marie was there in 2012, 2013, when she was there. The talent as a collective, as an overall, were not as good as they are today. The woman who's in the main event in the WWE women's roster, if you compare the woman at the very top and the woman at the very bottom, the talent level is much better all the way around. So wherever Eva Marie begins, she's going to be in a really good place to get over, work good matches, and be able to get herself over. And I think, again, she looks great. If she's able to recapture that personality and that heat that she got, she's going to be just fine. I don't really see any hiccups for her. The only thing is that this has a lot more pressure for both sides. For WWE, less so than Eva Marie, because I think with the WWE, they can say, hey, we're giving her another chance. If it works, fantastic. If it doesn't work, okay, we'll cut our losses and move on. For Eva Marie, it's going to be a matter that she really wants to prove to herself that she can do this. And at this point, if this doesn't work in this go around, let's just say that you give it the old college try and you really, really go, and somehow it doesn't work out, then that's the end. It's the end. And I think that that's the reason why there's more pressure on Eva Marie this time around. The first time around, it was just, she was playing with house money, but it's not that situation this time around. This time around, she's got to bring it because there's no excuses. Meaning, she's got a tremendous roster of men and women, to work with and learn from, and just get better in the ring every single day. So it's a matter of her putting her dedication, which I'm certain that she's doing. And I wish her the best of luck, because I really would like to see her succeed, because again, every talent that can get over only makes the shows better and makes the business better. So I'm pulling for her.
All right. And Ronda Rousey's having a baby finally.
Congratulations, Ronda Rousey. I believe her husband's name is Travis, and I'm not sure what his
Brown.
last name. Travis Brown?
I think so.
Okay, well, congratulations to the expecting parents.
Travis Brown.
Travis Brown. It's a tremendous blessing. Congratulations to you both. But I think that we were talking about this separately, where Ronda Rousey is the third female WWE talent over probably the last year that has been, I hate using the word sideline, because I don't think that that's the right word to use, but let's just use that for the sake of this argument. Sideline due to pregnancy. So you have Becky Lynch, you have Lacey Evans, now you have Ronda Rousey. There was a bit of a scare with Charlotte Flair recently, and that's one of the reasons why she wasn't featured at WrestleMania this year. And when I take a look at, and let's just say the three women who, in Becky Lynch's case, she's already given birth to her daughter, and I'm sure that she's probably on the comeback trail at this point. Lacey Evans is very much, she's probably midway through her pregnancy, and I'm sure that if Ronda Rousey announced it, she's probably past her first trimester at this point. Question becomes is, with all of, these are top female stars in the WWE. Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch, bona fide main eventers, and Lacey Evans was well on her way to that spot. Question becomes is, when these women go down and they get pregnant, they're out of action minimum 18 months. Anywhere from 18 to probably 24 months, that might be a bit of a stretch, but let's just say 18 months minimum, they're out of action. In days gone by, I don't believe that any female wrestling talent would want to get pregnant at the time, because that would ostensibly mean the end of their run, and in some cases the end of their careers in professional wrestling. And it seems like now these are top stars, like top women stars in the WWE, and they're gone for extended periods of time. And again, we're going to see the experiment here when Becky Lynch returns, whenever that happens, to see the reaction that she gets from the crowd, and how she comes, bounces back and gets back in the ring and comes across. But I'm going to presume that the audience is going to be all over it when she comes back. They'll be super thrilled to see her. The thing is that seeing all of this, my question is, should the WWE consider having an unofficial offseason for all of their wrestlers? Not, obviously the show doesn't stop. Raw, SmackDown, NXT, all those shows there every week. But meaning is that you circulate wrestlers in and out, give people time off. In some cases to be able to get a pause and refresh them. In some cases it's to just, heal from injuries and things of that nature. But, and to also give, to give other talents, opportunities in cases where they probably wouldn't under other scenarios. So I pose that question to you, Vic. Should the WWE consider having some kind of unofficial offseason for their wrestlers?
Well, I don't know. I think it should be case by case. I think the days of, even if there was no COVID, I think the days of 200 dates a year or more needs to go away. That is preposterous. that you're gonna see, and we've seen it time and time again. I don't know why they don't. I'm sure they know it now, but it's weird that you work people over and over. You see them every week on television, give them no break. But then if somebody gets injured and then they go away for 6 months and they come back and they're a way bigger star, and in some cases that injury almost propels them to another stratosphere, like Edge. I remember when Edge came back super jacked from his I forgot what he injured. Not this time around.
Neck injury.
That
That was back in that was 2003 or something like that.
yeah. And he comes back, and I'm super excited because in my mind I'm remembering Triple H coming back from the quad, and and I'm like, whoa, maybe he's gonna do what Triple H did, and he's gonna come back in the best shape of his life, and it's gonna be so. I'm so excited. I'm so excited, and that's exactly what he did. He came back and he jumped a level. It's like he could have stayed where he was at. All of a sudden, he goes away, and now he's up here. It's like it almost works every time. If you're someone who's going to be a star, you almost need that moment. Some people just they get that moment, and all of a sudden they blow up. But anyway, what I'm saying is 200 dates needs to stop. Let's put a 150 or whatever the number is, put a nice little cap on it, and try to manage those dates. Look, this is the biggest wrestling company in the world. It's a huge billion-dollar company. Hire some people that are really smart. Let's get these dates correct. And within those dates, you work it out in the deal, whatever. Let's say if a guy like Daniel Bryan goes, look, I don't need a break. I just want to work 1 day a week. So, whatever, or and pay-per-views. So let's say I want to work 60 dates. I say if it's the right person, make it happen. Make it happen. Or if you have somebody like Drew McIntyre, who's a young guy in his prime, let's give him 150 dates. Yes, he's going to work his ass off for 7 months. Let's give him a month off. But let's plan it ahead of time. Let's not wait for him to get hurt. Let's give him his time off. Drew, you're one of the big stars. We love you. We think you're going to be, the face of the company or one of the faces of the company for the next 15 years. We want you to work 150 dates. Is there a month of the year that you like to take off? Maybe you go visit family or whatever. Oh, sure, I'll take April off or whatever. No, you can't take April off.
No, certainly not April.
I'll take September off. Okay, great. We'll plan it out. And obviously, different people, you don't want everybody out at the same time.
No, of course not.
So you plan it out. So with certain people, get different dates. If you have people towards the end of their career, they don't have a lot of dates anyway. You give them, between 50 and 80 dates. If they want to work more, fine. But if you have somebody in their prime, you give them 150 dates, but you plug in a month off here and there. Or if they want to take 4 separate full weeks off, almost like PTO time, vacation time. How do you want to take a vacation? Oh, I'll take a whole month. I'm going to DR for a whole month.
Well, I mean, hey, whatever works. Whatever works.
I think that'll draw more people to that company, like wrestlers when they're trying to choose. That was always a way to get people to leave WWE. Was dates. It's like, well, if I could work 100 less dates, I'll come work for you. So I think we need to head in that direction. Wrestlers, they take care of themselves. They're doing, there's more information out there. They're not going crazy with the partying. They're not going crazy with the drugs. They are taking care of themselves. The training is more for them to last longer instead of look better. Yep. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So
totally get it.
The diets are on point. These people are gonna last. They can last easily to they're 50 years old. Like, some of these wrestlers.
At this rate, yes, they can.
Look at AJ. AJ looks like he could go another 10 years easily. He doesn't look any different. Like, he has a little bit more dad bod in the abs area, but everything else looks the same.
Well,
Daniel Bryan too. Daniel Bryan looks fantastic. It's like these guys can go to their 45, no problem,
if you take care of them and not run them to the ground, you'll get more out of them.
Well, I think that over the last year plus, and again, this is specifically for the WWE because again, this doesn't pertain to AEW because AEW was never a touring company. They only did television. So, so this is pertaining to the WWE. There was a time in the WWE where wrestlers were working 300 dates a year, which is ridiculous. I mean, that means that you're on the road 10 months out of the year, and that's wrestling matches, 300 matches a year. That doesn't include your personal appearances, radio and TV spots, all of those, all the promotion stuff you do for the company. So let's just throw in another, 2 weeks, 3 weeks worth of work on that, right? So that means that the guys and girls would have off the equivalent, like maybe 6 weeks off a year. That will run you to the ground very, very quickly. And, obviously all the things in the wrestling business that came about because of that, yes, you can say with the wrestlers, hey, it's a personal choice. Not everybody did it and all that, but, extenuating circumstances. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt because they certainly lived a life that I didn't. But today's wrestling, even with the WWE now, WWE runs far fewer shows now than they did. Meaning, before WWE would run 2 or 3 towns per night, and let's just say it's anywhere from 275 to 300 nights a year. Now the wrestlers work. The wrestlers now work approximately 200 dates a year, which is the equivalent of 4 days a week. It's a much lighter schedule, and over the last 14, 15 months of the pandemic, these guys have been wrestling, 60, 70 dates a year, because you do TV, pay-per-views, and, international TV specials they do on the WWE network or whatever, right? So they're working far less. Now, wow. Do I think that the WWE's business model is going to change once touring gets opened back up? The answer is no. I think that they're going to continue doing what they were doing with, 4 nights a week and traveling in different locations, Raw and SmackDown doing their own thing, and NXT probably having their shows, like their spot shows in the state of Florida, and then their TV crew, would probably do some level of touring. Do I think that eventually it will change? The answer is yes, it will, eventually. Now, is it going to change to the point where they just do TV and nothing else? Absolutely not. It will never get to that point because, WWE is a touring company. They make a lot of money on the tours, not necessarily domestically in the United States, but when they travel outside of the US, they make a mint. So they may cut down on the domestic shows in this country, which again, it's good and bad, right? Because, when you're in the big cities, New York, LA, Chicago, whatever, you're going to get, the WWE would visit those cities way more. But if you live in Boise, Idaho, you'll be lucky if they come, if they come to the local center once a year. And the thing is, if you take a look and ask, what are the shows that they probably won't run? Do you think that, and again, it might be easier to say, hey, we'll do one less show at the Barclays Center than cut the show in Boise, Idaho, because we'll make more money there because it's cheaper to run it. But at the same time, if you know that you're going to get a sellout 15,000, 20,000 people in the Barclays Center or at the Staples Center or, United Center or the Rosemont Horizon, Allstate Arena, I always call it the Rosemont Horizon. I think it's much cooler, but you're able to get more heads into the room. Presumably, yes, it costs more to run the shows in the big cities, but I have a feeling that if the WWE were to reduce their number of shows from, let's say, 200 down to 150, it's going to be the smaller markets that are going to get hit, because those are going to be the markets that the guys are not going to want to work in those markets, because it's much more fun to work in the big cities and not the small towns. But at the same time, it's almost like you're kind of, you would risk negating that fan base. in those smaller towns that need to be serviced as well. And, I think that to a certain degree, WWE over the years has really reduced their schedule, because their schedule used to be much more hectic. It used to be 7 days a week, double shots on Saturday and Sunday. They don't do that anymore. But yeah, I think that eventually it will come down, but I don't think it's ever going to get to a point where it's just going to be television and nothing else. I don't think it will ever get to that point.
Well, they don't have to do that because they have 350 people on the roster.
Correct.
So,
but let's just say that out of those 350 persons they have on their roster, let's say presumably 150, maybe 125 of them are on TV. Those are the people that are going to be doing the tours. It's the people that are on television.
In my opinion, that's the problem. In my opinion, that's just my opinion. I don't think you should do what they've been doing, which is you have Raw, you take the same exact people from Raw, you do Raw, and you sell tickets to Raw, and Raw tours the entire country. And then on the weekends, you have Raw still touring the entire country, doing the same thing they just did on television. I don't think that, to me, if it was my company, I would not do that. I would kind of base my, like, wherever I'm going, I would get people maybe that do well in that market. Of course, I would have, like, okay, Roman Reigns is gonna go to the biggest markets. He's the biggest star. We're gonna take
Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is the person that's selling the tickets.
Yeah, but
he's the draw.
But if you look at, I always use UFC. UFC, what they do really well, it's they cater to the market using people from that market. If they're gonna go to Japan, they're gonna use Japanese fighters.
But I understand where you're coming from. Yes, it does. But here's the thing that ends up happening with the UFC. UFC runs pay-per-view shows now. I think it's like every other week. I mean, they
run one pay-per-view a month, but they run shows
for ESPN or whatever station, the streaming services they're on. So they're basically on every weekend at this point.
Every single week, yes. They run a show.
They got some kind of show they're promoting every week. Yep. So at this point, they're doing 52 pay-per-view-esque programs per year. Out of necessity, because of the fact that these are real fights, there's no way that let's just, and I'm going to use Conor McGregor as the example. And I'm just using an exaggerated example. He's a big star. If the UFC were a work, you could presumably have Conor fighting much more regularly than he currently does. But knowing that it's a shoot, you can't. It would be in the WWE, it would be a similar situation if the UFC was a shoot and not a work. Then you're not going to see Roman Reigns every week on TV. You probably build Roman up to that one big fight. The fight happens, whether he goes over or he goes down. Then you don't see Roman for 2 or 3 months because he has to recoup, he has to retrain, and then go back and fight again. So it's out of necessity. It's not necessarily that they're doing it because that's a strategic thing. It's a necessity. It's out of necessity.
I mean,
they do have people in the local markets, and they do realize that in particular regions and in particular areas that, let's just say that they're in Puerto Rico for an example, and if they got a Puerto Rican fighter, probably one of the, I don't know if Nate Diaz, is Puerto Rican. I don't know, but I'm just using him as an example. If he's a Latino fighter that the Latino audience would get behind him, he would be the main event because he's going to get the reaction. But it wouldn't be the same if Nick Diaz was available and they're wrestling in Nebraska, or they're fighting in Nebraska. They would probably get somebody who's local to the market, even though the larger audience would not know who that person is. But they're given the opportunity to get themselves over by getting in the fight, knowing that the local audience is behind them. And if that person goes out there and beats the piss out of their opponent in 20 seconds, you presumably have a new star.
Yeah, well, yeah. See, but there's a happy medium, right? You can still have Roman on the show in Cleveland, but have a match with the Miz against Dolph Ziggler in Cleveland,
Oh, absolutely.
and that is catering to that market. You get what I'm saying? It doesn't
I
have to
do.
be the same programs that are happening on Raw and SmackDown. I
Well,
say that. I mean, I,
I've
that's my opinion. I I think
I,
it's stupid to just do Raw again over and over and over again. And I get it. Back in the day, that would help people work on their matches, whatever, and improve that match. That is not necessary in 2021 with the type of workers we have now. That is not necessary. You know it's
well,
not necessary.
I mean,
You know it's not necessary. Do not tell
do
me
I do
that
I
it's
want to say? Listen, am I going to say that's completely unnecessary? The answer is no.
because they haven't done it in 2 years. So we know it's
Well, but
unnecessary.
okay,
No, it's
okay, but
unnecessary.
here's the deal. The deal is they're not doing it in front of an audience because they have no audience.
Correct.
However, since the I don't want to say that all of these wrestlers because it's not true, but let's just say that the majority of the wrestlers are local to the state of Florida. Within a couple of hours drive from the performance center. They can get in their cars, if they live in Tampa, St. Pete, they live in the Clearwater area, they live in Orlando, Kissimmee, Winter Park, wherever in the surrounding area in Central Florida. It's simple for them to be able to make the drive to the performance center and be able to work on their matches if need be. I do agree that a lot of these wrestlers have been doing it for so long that it's not a necessity. However, I've gone to enough WWE live shows that yes, although you could say, hey, they don't call it Raw Live or SmackDown Live anymore. They call it WWE Live. Part of the reason why they do that is it's a branding issue because you're not always going to get just the Raw stars or just the SmackDown stars. They'll be the majority of the card. They'll probably be about 70-80% of the card, but they'll sprinkle a little a little surprise here and there. But what they try to do in those shows is that they try to mix the matches up. They don't necessarily do all of the stories that are being presented on TV. The matches tend to be a little different because since it's not being recorded for television, a match that would be on Raw that at the time would last maybe 8 minutes, they'll probably get 15 on the live show. And part of it is that yes, they're working things out because on television you only get so much time to do it because there's a very tight clock on you versus when you do a live a live non-televised show, it's not as stringent with the time. So you can work certain things out in front of an audience to see what will work, what won't work. So like that, you can try those out on television. So if you get reports, and let's say you and I are wrestling each other, we're doing an angle on TV, and we're wrestling each other, and we're married. We're like, all right, every week for the next 6 weeks, you and I are going to be wrestling each other every night in the opening match. Well, then we try to figure things out to say, okay, what can we do different? So like that, when if we're gonna have a match on television 2 weeks from now, we could probably try to do something a little different to progress the story. And maybe then the next time, instead of them saying, all right, guys, you got 7 minutes tonight, they'll give us 10, they'll give us 12 the next time. That's really what the story is. It's not a matter of them, the X's and O's of, running the ropes and doing the spots. That's not what that's about. It's more a matter of trying to work their angles and do the physical things that maybe, doing it in front of a live audience, you get that direct feedback that will help, tell the stories on television. Obviously now there's no audience because in the Thunderdome, whatever, it's a huge improvement from having nobody there, but it's still not a genuine reaction. Like in WrestleMania, when you saw, that big live audience there, it was, you were able to feel it. It was palpable. Um, that's the direct feedback, and that's the reason why the live events are very helpful. Because yes, it allows the guys to get more work and get more reps in, and be able to work in front of an audience, especially the wrestlers that are less experienced. The people who are super experienced, they do the reps to keep the body strong and keep themselves calloused. But a lot of it is for them to be able to work things out and fine tune things for television, because in TV you only got but a finite amount of time, versus if you do it in the live crowds every single night, the cumulative time you get together will then make the end product on TV that much better.
Yeah, wow. I have no problems with none of that. I'm just saying that if you do it my way,
You save. The thing is, when you go, okay, the Raw team will be here on Friday, here on Saturday, here on Sunday, and then they'll do Raw.
Yep.
So the same people will be working 4 times a week all year. We're gonna get to those 200 dates really, really quick.
What?
And that's all I'm saying. All I'm saying is have smart people look at the dates. How many dates do I have left for Edge? Okay, Edge only has 10 dates left. Okay, well, we can't use them on these house shows because we need them for SmackDown and for this thing. So
Right.
who can we use instead? Well, whoever. Shelton
That's why that's where the guys like Mansoor, that's where the guys like
exactly.
Ali, all the guys from 205 Live, those are the guys that'll get to fill those spots.
There's a science, right? So there's like, okay, and this is when I work and I'm working on schedules and I'm trying to piece together, okay, this person has an emergency, he has to go to the dentist, and I don't have him for this time frame. Now I need to fill that in. It's like when you have those dates, yes, you're limited in dates, but now you can get creative and you can use other people that you normally wouldn't use, and now you use them more often and you use Edge less often, right? And you make, but now you're forced to be creative on the house shows because you have to still make a good card, a fun card, an interesting card. So there's ways to do that. You can have interesting matchups with young up and comers that people do like, but they don't get to see them that much. You can have people from that state or that city that rep that city hard. Like, not everyone does it, but some people do it. Some people are big into that. And it's a big deal. Kurt Angle in Pittsburgh is probably a big deal. Like,
Yeah.
So just making the cards interesting and plugging people in based on the amount of dates they have left on their, for the year, and just making it this whole mathematic equation, trying to put the pieces together. If you're this big billion-dollar company, I just think it can be done. I think it's a more fun way to do it, and I think it's a way to save the careers of a lot of your athletes, since you can't get an off season, but there are ways around it, right, to get people less dates. Anyway, last topic. Daniel Bryan. He had his match against Roman Reigns. Title versus, I guess, his career. SmackDown?
SmackDown career.
SmackDown career, not WWE career. So SmackDown career. So based on what I've seen, I know Daniel Bryan holds a lot of weight, and I know he gets a lot of what he wants, and he has a lot of ideas, and you can just tell they're pouring out of the TV screen. You go, okay, that's a Daniel Bryan thing there. And I know he probably wants to go work NXT, but does it make sense based on what I've seen? I'm cool with that, by the way. I think WWE, they have all this money. I don't think you necessarily have to break down budgets. I know that's a very corporate way to do it. I get it. You break down the budget per department, per show, per whatever. But to me, look, I have this much money to pay wrestlers. As long as I don't go over that budget, we're making a ton of money. The money's rolling in. So I'm cool with putting Daniel Bryan on any show. However, I don't think that's how they operate. I really don't. So Daniel Bryan is one of the highest paid wrestlers in the world, and it's not close. He makes a lot of money. We're talking millions of dollars per year.
Good for him.
Yeah. I don't know if they're willing to put him in NXT, considering I don't know that's in their budget. I know you can bring Finn up and maybe cut into that. But to have Finn down there and Bryan, woo! That's a lot of money, baby. That's a lot of. I know they got the $1 Million Man walking around, but
yeah, he just made a cameo this past week on NXT, which is funny.
I'm sure they'll look past it and still let him do it if that's what he really wants to do, at least for a short term, 3 months or whatever. But I wouldn't be surprised if they just didn't let him do it. Maybe they let him do one match. Only because the way they operate, I've noticed they won't let too many expensive people work on on shows that don't generate that much money.
Well, this is true, but I think that part of the reason why that doesn't happen, and I say this with all due respect, the reason why a lot of the quote unquote top tier WWE main roster talents don't work on NXT is primarily because the fear is that they're going to overshadow the talents that are there. And they're not necessarily going to accentuate the strengths of all the really good talents that are on NXT, and they work very well with each other inside that world. But once you step out of it, they don't necessarily fit in very well into the mainland WWE product. Daniel Bryan, however, he and Balor, and the reason why I would say Daniel Bryan is the exception of this more so than Balor is because Balor never got to the level that Daniel Bryan got to in terms of being a megastar on the WWE main roster. He was ascending to that, and after he got injured when Balor was the inaugural Universal Champion and he had to surrender the title, that took a lot of the steam off of him, and I don't think that he ever recouped it on the main roster. He came back to NXT and has been rehabbed ever since and has done really fantastic work for them. And it seems like Balor's skill sets work very well on NXT, and it's a matter of how do you translate that to the main roster before you make the inevitable call up back. A guy like Daniel Bryan, all of his natural strength as a performer is the in-ring stuff. Over the last 5, 6, 8 years, he has done a great job of developing a personality and an overall persona that wrestling fans can get behind and really enjoy. Because no one, when the bell rang inside that 20 by 20 ring in between those ropes, Daniel Bryan, is one of the best in the world. He is there's just nothing, anybody that would say Daniel Bryan is not one of the best wrestlers in the world doesn't know what they're talking about. But he has developed himself into one of the biggest stars in the WWE, that it would be incredibly beneficial to NXT to have Daniel Bryan there for I would dare say a semi-extended period of time. Again, NXT needs to garner a larger audience because, again, they were on Wednesday nights, they were competing with AEW. AEW got the better of them in the ratings, but they were kind of canceling each other out. When they got separated and now NXT has its own night, they're doing roughly about the same numbers they were doing when they were competing against AEW. Maybe some weeks a little better, some days, some weeks, but it's more or less the same. So when you insert somebody like Daniel Bryan onto the show, you're going to insert a person that the main WWE core audience, the people that watch SmackDown particularly, that's anywhere from 2 to 2.2 million people a week watching SmackDown on Fox. They know who Daniel Bryan is. They love Daniel Bryan, and the hope is that those people will sample NXT and will then get behind NXT. And let's just say that they were to get an additional 500,000 to start off with, and let's say they're able to retain half of that audience. That's an extra 250,000 people per week watching the show. That can get them into the neighborhood of 1 million people per week watching NXT. On bringing in Daniel Bryan alone, and it wouldn't be a gimmick because Daniel Bryan works perfectly within the NXT universe. He would be able to have matches with Gargano, with Cole, with Kyle O'Reilly, with Karrion Kross, with Finn Balor. The list goes on and on and on and on. I'm not going to say it's endless, but it's a pretty sizable list for guys for Daniel Bryan to work with. And you can have Daniel Bryan there probably upwards of a year if you wanted to, and get all the stories in before you eventually either move him to Raw or you get a stipulation match where he would annoy Roman, you know, he'll annoy Roman Reigns so much that he'll allow him back on SmackDown to wrestle him again. Who knows? But I'm just saying is that I think that with Daniel Bryan, his best fit would be in NXT. And I think with all of the skill sets that he naturally has, he works perfectly within the NXT realm. And as a big star, as big of a star as he is, you know, in the main WWE programming, it's that much more beneficial to NXT to be able to get more people to sample the show and hopefully stick with it and, you know, add NXT to their viewing repertoire as to whether they choose to only watch Raw or SmackDown. You know, they might also choose to watch NXT and stick with it, especially if Daniel Bryan is there, and Daniel Bryan will be at or near the main event at all times.
I mean, I'm sure he wants to do it, and like I said, I think he's one of the most respected wrestlers
Oh,
in
yeah,
all of the.
absolutely. That's without question.
I'm not even talking about by the wrestlers. I'm talking about by the office.
By the promotion,
Yeah.
yes.
So
Yes,
I
absolutely.
think if he wants to do it, they'll let him do it. I think that is really, really cool. There is some really, really cool matchups that we haven't seen. So it would be more interesting than him going to Raw, that's for sure.
Oh, yes. My God, yes.
Although, if he's given the same amount of leeway that he was given on SmackDown, maybe he can help Raw.
You know what? Here's the reason why I say no to that at the moment. Yes, I agree that he would be a huge help to the Raw roster. However, I think that with Raw, they have a lot of good talent. It's just a matter that it seems like the ship goes like this. Like they're just rolling in circles and they can't seem to find one straight direction to go in and take the entire program in that direction for better or for worse. Because they have segments on the show that seem cool and seem like it's going somewhere, and then they have other segments where we're like, why is this on? Like it seems directionless, and or if they're trying to do storylines, it's just there isn't enough care given to it to where it has like meat and an anchor and a base to it. So that's the thing about Raw. Like my fear would be is that Daniel Bryan would have excellent matches on Raw that would ultimately be rendered meaningless. And that's my fear for him. And on NXT, that will not happen. Only because of the fact that he would be such a huge star for that TV, and the way that NXT structures their television, it's mostly designed around the wrestling. I know they're trying to do personalities, you know, with the LA Knights of the world and guys like that, but it's really a meat and potatoes wrestling show. And I think that Daniel Bryan would fit in like a hand in a glove inside that particular setting. He'll be just absolutely perfect there.
Yeah, don't even get me started on Raw.
And no, Raw. Hey, listen, boys and girls, with all due respect, Raw is rotten. They have bright spots, but man, oh man.
I say this all the time. If I was them, you know how Vince likes to make these hard rules, like you can't do this, or you know, nobody.
Yeah.
You know, I would make a hard rule. If you're 35 or older, you can't be on Raw. That would be my first hard rule. It would be
there'd be a lot of talents not on Raw.
Yeah, they can all go to SmackDown. I don't care. SmackDown can have all these super legends. That's all cool.
I will say this. I will say this. I can appreciate where you're coming from, but at the same time, you know, SmackDown's only a 2-hour show versus Raw being 3, and I know that sometimes
the people that are under 35 on SmackDown would come to Raw.
All right, you know what that's called? That's called the Superstar Shakeup, amigo. That's what it's called.
Yeah, but it'd be a good one. Instead of the same old superstars, instead of moving the Miz from brand to brand or trading AJ for Daniel constantly, like we don't notice, you can't have the two best workers working together. So you got to keep them apart as much as possible.
I don't know why, because I'd like to see them wrestle against each other at some point.
Well, every time they do, it's really cool. Either way, Daniel Bryan to NXT. Let's see. I hope it happens. But okay, I think that's enough for today.
All right, boys and girls. Vic is tired. We're gonna call this a night. But
Tired. Yeah.
follow us here on the Wrestlebros. THEWRESTLEBROS. For Vic, I'm Lou. Deuces.